We're live. All right. Thanks everyone for joining today. I'm here with Anthony Paganucci from Brynson. Anthony's been in multifamily for 20 plus years, adding value and helping with his partners bring along solutions all over the board. Experience as an operator as well, right?
Correct.
All right. Anthony's Anthony, let's give a quick bio on yourself, and we'll get started on getting to hell yes.
Sure. So thank you for having me. I'm Anthony Paganucci. I'm the CEO and founder of Brynson. I have been in the industry, like Guillermo said, almost 20 years. I started off as a leasing agent many moons ago when I was 2, and started there, and I worked my way all the way through. So I've sat in the seats, been in the owner-operator side for majority of it, and just recently, in order to solve the problems that we all experience, I moved over to the vendor-supplier side about 2-3 years ago. And have been working on solving the issue since.
Outstanding. And it's not the dark side on the side.
It is definitely not the dark side. There's so much light. It's unbelievable. It's blind.
I think that right now, as I said in the panel today, we're sitting here today in Phoenix or Arizona. It's in the panel today. It's pretty exciting right now. I think we're heading into a real curve of innovation. And I do believe that the status quo is broken. And I do believe that there are financial constraints in place that are not going to allow the status quo to persist. And that's really exciting from a vendor perspective,
right?
Because people are not just open eyes, but they're looking to solve problems that exist in their life. So for Brynson right now, I want to share a little bit what Brynson does, and then we can talk about what the ideal hell yes buyer looks like for Brynson.
Sure. So, as I mentioned earlier, been on the owner operator side for so long. We have seen a lot of the issues. We've felt the inequities. We've understood all the problems that we're all trying to solve. But again, we're all here to do one thing. And everyone in our industry, no matter your role, our ultimate goal is to get heads in beds. And that is what we're here to do. We're here to help you get heads in beds. But how I did this was I took out of a 3-stage approach. And the first low-hanging fruit is we at Brynson, when we created this, we also created ILS management. So I think for, is that internet listing services such as apartments, Zillow, rent, etc. Those are our most expensive marketing mediums in the industry. It's one of our largest line items as well. And it was also one of those that didn't have enough granularity. There was not enough people to explain to me, how can this work? Which one should I choose? What's the term package I should get? And the inequities between the large REITs to the mid-market is a wide gap. And so we wanted to bridge that gap and level the playing field. So we created ILS management. That was step 1, solving that problem because it's one of the most expensive needs. The second phase, though, what we do now, and it was also a major industry problem, and actually it's becoming more prevalent. It's a truly vendor agnostic unified platform. And what does that mean? That means that we have 37 endpoint solutions that we use today. None of them talk to each other. All people look at is like, I've got a property management software, that's it. Well, no, you have 17 other providers that you pay, and you need to have them all speak to each other. So we created Brynsites, and Brynsites is the first and only right now truly vendor agnostic platform that we integrate with everyone. But we threw a BI tool in there because now you've got everything in it, right?
Sure.
So now it's a true great BI tool.
So is that like a single sign-on for everything?
Yeah, so single sign-on, there's a little bit of a difference. So single sign-on is like, like when you log in and you're like, hey, I use my Gmail account.
Totally.
That's what that is, right? So you can access everything from one username and user password. We are working on that, but obviously with so many, I say this lovingly, the way that many of the companies that have been around for a while were built, it's not as easy as that.
For sure.
And so we have to work with a few folks. But when we call unified, basically you log into Brynsites and you can access all of those different APIs or access the different logins. And then we can bring them in various ways.
And does that solve password management too?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Sure.
I've heard so many times I think that what people, and maybe the audience doesn't, or maybe they fully appreciate, is that with the turnover in these roles, right, in this business, like there is a real cost to just keeping people online in their business, in their applications. And if people forgot an application, they just won't log in. And so that data doesn't happen.
And correct. And, personally, as an organization, we use several password management tools to ensure like the safety and the security of all of them. So like 1Password, right? Like an enterprise grade, which has been phenomenal. We recommend that to a lot of our clients. You can quickly cut off everything.
Sure.
And then, or, do whatever you need. But last thing that we do though, is now we've gotten those 2 steps, ILS unified with BI and all of that in one place. That's amazing. I mean, that's our industry doesn't have it yet, right? But we wanted to bring in the AI element, which is everyone's talking AI this, AI that, right? So what we did is we created Paul, and Paul is our AI solution where he can go in, or he's part of Brynsights, and at any given moment you ask a question and you say, hey, what's my, ROI on Zillow? What's my lease out on this property? What am I doing here? He can answer everything that's integrated in seconds.
Oh, very cool. And so
Yeah.
there's 3 different solutions and they sound disparate. Like they sound like 3 different buyers. Like one's VP marketing,
Great
one is like
question.
operations.
Good point.
How do you land in that hell yes buyer when you've got, and again, like correct me if I'm wrong or if I've misunderstood, but it sounds like 3 different buyers. And so how do you kind of track towards hell yes?
So great question. And it's actually what I'm going to say is I will say it respectfully. It's all the same buyer.
Okay.
And it's because we go after, right now it's all multifamily for us. At some point when we go take over other industries, great. But right now, multifamily is where we have the experience and we've been in those seats. So ILSs, everyone uses.
Yeah.
Even if you're ILS independent, at some point, you're going to need something.
So the role is by the ILS. So that's suffering an ILS problem. That's
solving the problem. So that's directors of marketing, depending on how they're set up too. Centralization is a little bit different, right? So corporate offices, and that's a line item for everyone.
Okay.
Unified platform. Now we bridge the gap between marketing and operations.
Got it.
So you can be the CEO, CFO, or a regional.
Right.
It solves your problem. Because again, everyone wants transparency.
Right.
And that's our biggest industry problem is that marketing and operations are always butting heads because they don't talk.
Yeah.
No one talks.
Yeah.
And then the other piece is the siloed data, which everyone has that problem, no matter your role. And it's because we have so many solutions and it all lives everywhere else.
Sure.
So we come out with, we have personas and they're personas that we created. And I know sorry if I'm jumping ahead.
No.
The personas, we have funny names. And just because you'll never forget them. We have like Overwhelmed Olivia.
Yeah.
And we have like, Data-Driven Daniel.
Oh, love it.
And we've got a couple of different ones that we created because each buyer has a persona, but that's a different way for us to communicate with them.
Yeah.
And you have like a Savvy Susan. And Savvy Susan she knows she's on it. She knows her integrations. She's very tech savvy. She understands like the nomenclature and how things operate. And then there's the Overwhelmed Olivia, where it's like she has all these issues and she's just got so much on her plate because there's low bandwidth.
Right.
And she can't get it done. The Data-Driven Daniel, he's slow, but he reads everything. He ingests meticulous.
Are those users or buyers?
Those are going to be mostly what we call them buyers.
You call them buyers.
And obviously because they come into users.
Got it. And are they typically also budget holders?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. We found that 75% of our personas are the ones that are decision makers. And it's about the 25% that get us to the decision maker. And it's because they're the ones, the decision makers, like, you deal with this first, do the demo, tell me how it's going to help us, and then we'll, they're influencers.
That's what. Yeah, we're different than you in that our users are not the budget holders.
Right.
And so we've got to find the budget holder, and it depends, like a lot because there's so much flux that's happening in these organizations right now, especially in the operations space. We're finding the budget holder can depend. Right.
Yeah, of course.
And I mean, and it seems like obvious or natural, but what we all are also learning is that when you've got let's say in our company, it's maintenance, let's say a maintenance leadership role. That means they've allocated somebody to be accountable for solving the maintenance problem.
Right.
And they're typically going to be a budget holder and have the pain in the same seat. And what we're finding when we talk out and when we're talking to the market with respect to getting to hell yes, that when I can find the budget holder and the pain coexisting in the same spot, we got a faster deal. And so what we also are learning for our side of things is that the size of the company makes a big difference.
Of course.
So you guys, where do you guys target?
Absolutely. So, we find fast success, I'll say it that way, when it comes to mid-market. So under 100 properties, under 50 properties. As you guys know, like anyone that's mid-market, usually there's not very many layers. Yeah. It's like you said, budget holder, I call them signatories, things like that. When you go in, it's like the guy that's reaching out and the guy that's on the demo with his marketing director or with his asset manager is the one signing the check.
Totally.
That's where they're like, you know what? We have discretionary income. Our budgets are not public, right? So we can do whatever we want. Yep. We find that to be much faster. We do have several large enterprise clients. And when we go with them, it is a much longer sales cycle.
Sure.
There's a lot more folks needing it. However, a lot of it becomes political, and I wouldn't say political, but it is a little political.
Well, it's a de-risking decision. When you look at the larger organizations, there's at least 4 buyers or four people on the deal. I'll put it that way. And the person with the discretionary budget might not even be on the deal.
Right.
right? You've got like an economic buyer, economic champion. You'll have a user champion. You'll have a maybe a technology champion that wants to be involved, and then ultimately the economic buyer gets involved when there's a recommendation to make. And like these are all different meetings. Like
Correct.
it's like to your comment around speed to signature, like trying to find the situation where you have to corral that many agendas, that many, and I mean like organizational agendas,
Yeah, of course.
and then the calendars just to get those meetings in place. That can stretch deals out by months.
Yeah,
right?
no one's as cool as we are with the Red Robins link, you know.
Yeah.
Like let's get it all in. I will tell you though that one of the things that has helped us, and I'll just say that like when it comes to these sales calls and the meetings and the the courting,
Yeah.
right, is that we actually came up with what we call a silent deal killer sheet.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, I love this.
And the silent deal killer sheet are questions that where, say, for example, when you're in there and you're like, I love it, I'm a champion, I want it.
Yeah.
And then they ghost you.
Yeah.
Like, where'd this guy go? Like, did he fall off the planet?
Yeah.
Is he lost in the,
Are
the
you okay?
triangle?
Are you okay?
And what we found though, is people are afraid to ask you certain questions.
Totally.
And they're afraid to fail. They don't want to fail because they're in charge of looking at
personal risk.
Personal risk. And then they're like, you know what? I love this guy. It's like, he's super great. He's got a great product, but they're young. Or he's super great, but maybe it's a budget. Or how do I know that business is going to make it? So what we did was we created the silent deal killer sheet. We call it Why Brynson, just to make it. We don't want to put silent deal killer sheet on there and give it to them, right? But basically what we did is we answered 9 questions. And I won't go through all the 9, but I'm happy to share it. But basically the 9 questions kind of come around to what's the look like if I'm not happy. So we have a 90-day guarantee. If you don't want to work with us, we don't want to work with you, respectfully.
100%.
And
because you're in the renewals game.
Right.
We are all in the renewals game.
We're leveling playing fields to allow for flexibility.
Yep.
We also tell people, yes, we are a startup. We've been around, we've been in your seat. But here's how we're going to be successful. We're self-funded. We have this much. We're not going out of business. Things, because people are like, wait a minute, you might go out of business. What happens?
Right.
Then we talk about data security. People are like, a lot of them, some guys are really definitely not afraid to ask, like the team members. But there's other ways of like, how are you going to help us if there's a problem? Some people ask, some people don't. They want to know about payments. They want to know about, do you have, what services do you guys use for your accounting software? Someone asked me that. And I'm like, why do you want to know? And he's like, because I want to know how fast I'm going to get a check or an invoice. And if you can take it ACH. Like they were asking. I love that guy, by the way.
Yeah. I think ACH all day long.
But, those questions for, again, silent deal killers, you can Google them. There's a great guy that I follow named James Sinclair. He's another founder in way different industries, but he comes out with these, updates to help people in the sales process. And I think that the gentleman that we handed it to was like, thank you for answering these. I was so happy for you and what you're doing, but I was hesitant to ask you these questions because I didn't want to offend you.
And do you guys put that like, so we have something similar, but we don't really show it. It's like some things that, things you might be thinking about. It's kind of like the list. It's basically a running list of when we hear an objection that we don't want to fumble on the answer.
Correct.
Like, it's answered, but we don't want to fumble on the answer. So like, are you X, Y, Z? Are you, 1, 2, 3? And we've got those things documented and we have it kind of in a hidden slide in the slide deck, but we don't show it. Now, what do you think would happen if you actually put that out towards it? Like, you guys share that to us.
We share it right away. We say, you know what, we are transparent, and we call it the why Brynson.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
But then we have the questions there. We state it in a, like, here's what you might be thinking. We want to answer it.
Yeah.
And here's how long we've been in the industry. Here's how we don't say how much money we have. It's just like, here's we're not going out of business.
Yeah.
Here's our issue if you have a problem with us. Here's the contract rules. Here's
Interesting.
And that way, it's like, there is nothing left for the unknown.
Yeah. So why wouldn't you buy now?
Now it's on me if they're not doing it. Meaning I look back and I'm like, then I didn't solve your problem.
Yep. Oh, I love that. Because we try to think about it as like terms like being as aerodynamic as possible, but I think there's still some friction out there.
100%.
Because we talk about deployment, and here's what deployment feels like 0 to 90, right? And then we do a QBR. Like it's, if you don't want to continue after 90 days, that's a QBR moment. That's where the quarterly business review, and that's where we do the value proposition. And that's where we revisit the original value proposition, problems we're supposed to solve. Did we solve those problems? Right? Very blunt. And we go through a retro where we actually have 4 boxes. We call it 4 L's. We stole this from technology. And it's basically, what did you love? What did you learn? What did you loathe? What lacked? And
Love,
we
learn,
have a
load, lack. Love
yeah,
it.
and
Okay.
the load box is where we get so much good feedback. It's what
Okay.
did you hate
Yeah.
about it? And people are compelled. If there's a box that's got like if you're giving someone permission to give you why you didn't like, it's like you said, people go like, and then go ghost. But you give them a box to fill out, they'll fill it out,
Mhm.
and they'll give us feedback on what they didn't like, and then we can respond to it.
Correct.
The worst negative feedback is the one you don't hear,
Yeah. Of course.
right? And so how can you
Again,
respond
those
to that?
like so like the what we call them silent deal killers.
Silent deal killers.
Because it's like we're not able to figure out what the problem is. So we're like, you know what, let me get ahead of it. We found, you know, and again, there's a great template we can share with you on how to get to those and you answer them for your organization. But it's stuff that you wouldn't hear normally from someone, but they're thinking it like, ooh, because when you say hell yes, if I gave you everything transparently, then there should be a hell yes. But if I didn't get that, I missed the mark somewhere. So what is it that doesn't match up with you? What we also have done is we got a list. We don't really have competitors right now because we are the glue and most people are at endpoint solution. We sit on top of all of that, right? So it's like we bring everyone, we're agnostic. We don't care who you work with. We want you to work with everyone. So what we did though, is we also put in and we're like, here's where a similar product works. Here's how we differ, but here's how great they are. And they're like, why are you pumping up your competitors? I'm like, A, there's enough business to go around. We're not those people. And I said, B, but here's what we're different. Like we don't do quarterly business reviews. We do them every 2 weeks where we email you and we have a Slack channel for you. We do them monthly. We check in. We're proactive versus reactive. So there's other ways that we are different, but they're huge.
And that's important to different buyers, right? So I think the thing about what I'm enjoying in these conversations about getting hell yes is that it's learning what's important for the different buyers because I'm finding it's more about fit than it is about, you know, like an ROI or a value conversation, right? And so with the things that you guys do that's different, that's important to that buyer and a priority for them and a decision-making criteria, part of their decision criteria.
And one of the trends that, you know, you were talking about as we're here at this conference is everyone has created, and I shouldn't say everyone, a lot of companies have created these endpoint solutions, but what they're forgetting, and this is where the collective is turning, is thank you for my technology. I cannot live without the service.
Yes.
So one of the big things is now a lot of these endpoints, they come in and they're like, come sign this up, subscription, it's automated, but now the sales guy is gone and there's no more service and it's gone through a queue system, like a ticketing system for something. That's where we're all going to have to figure out the big change. Since we're a human-based organization through and through, even though we can have all these automations, the ultimate comes down to the on-site person, right? Yeah. So the people running these machines need service. They need help. And the biggest gripe are these large companies like the PM, the property management softwares, the ILSs, you know, they don't have that, let's say white glove. And that's where I think the revolution is going to come.
Well, and it could be that they don't, and it could be that they don't value it.
No, I'm going to disagree respectfully. It's like they never knew they could get it.
Okay, fair enough.
So
it wasn't a question they asked.
Right. They didn't ask it because they're thinking, I'm not a large PMC, I'm not the REIT, so I don't feel entitled. Well, wait a minute, that's wrong. We have to change that mindset. You write a check to someone that gives you a service. You can demand whatever you request. If they can't give it to you, then you can go look for another provider that can. That's what we like to tell folks is like, you're entitled to have everything. You're the one that allowed yourself to accept not having something. And I say that in the most respect, but you never knew.
Well, it's all about trade-offs,
correct?
Right? And it's all about trade-offs. And then, I mean, as buyers, or sellers, we're not going to introduce questions that you aren't going to ask because I don't want to confuse you. With, you know, just yesterday, you know, I was writing an email back to a prospect and I was tempted to put in, and yes, and we can. And I literally deleted all of it. I was like, no, answer the mail. They are looking for these things. Let's answer the mail and then figure out a way to reveal that in a subsequent conversation, rather than overwhelm the question that they're trying to end. Because we need to respond to the questions that they're asking, and not overwhelm them with what we want to tell them. And so I'm literally changing everything into questions with respect to here's what we're hearing, and then do you have this kind of problem now and then? And I'm actually not serving up the answer. Here's the feature we do. Here's the easy button. Right. I actually just want to ask the question so that I really want them to respond back in an email. Like I don't want to tell them the answer and go away. I want to leave the question open so they respond back so I get more information.
Correct.
So I can
just reverse it.
Right. So I mean that would be something that we're doing a lot more. So given we'll just target the ILS. So the Brynson's, what are you known for? Like what's your best in the world solution of the three different solutions?
Sure. So we started with ILS management.
Yeah.
We're still the only ones, and we've done a lot of great things to stay that way. But ILS management, and this is where no matter your size, it's a necessity.
So then in the ILS management space, when someone, that's VP marketing.
And director, regional, depends. Every organization set up differently.
Got it. In that organization, in that buyer seat, what have they considered? Like when they're faced with the problem of, I've got to manage all these ILSs and it costs me a lot of time and money. What have they considered before they start looking for a technology solution?
The only thing that in our industry over the last 50 years has been to hire another person.
Okay, so
that's literally what it comes down to,
right?
And it's like,
is an agency a solution?
There aren't any. So there's a marketing agency that will have that will be able to provide you with ILS services, but basically what they do is they just go buy it, put it in your name,
right? Okay, whatever, and they manage it for you.
And then sometimes they will, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
But they don't go and do the granularity to showcase, like, for example, an ILS provider, like let's just use one of the biggest guys or medium guys. They have salespeople. The salesperson comes out and says, "Hey, I want your whole portfolio and I'll give you 15% off." That's wrong. You need to know by property which one should choose, because you have different owners, you have different P&Ls.
Got you.
So we have groupthink as an industry.
Yeah.
And it's a big problem. And so we think that just because everyone's on it, just because they're bigger means it's going to work for everything of mine.
Right.
We take it granular and say property A in Gilbert, Arizona, property C in Tallahassee, property D over here should have very different mixes. And and I won't say that people don't do that. Many companies do, but when you're looking at people that don't have time, they don't do that. You're a mid-market, you have under 50 properties, you have a leasing director, or excuse me, a marketing director and a marketing assistant, or just one marketing director, and they're expected to do it all.
Right.
And it's very difficult. So we take it a lot differently than most folks do.
So before they find you, like they're kind of at their wits' end. They're working on Sunday night, that kind of thing, like Sunday night work, and they're like, okay, I can just stop this insanity. We're growing, or we need to whatever. It's usually what I'm hearing is that's usually my time is completely. I'm out of gas. I can't hire somebody, right? Or I just don't want to hire somebody because that's also a lot of work. It's Sunday night. What are they typing into the search engine?
We are finding, and we actually do the research on this because, ILS management, we created that. So we're spreading the word on that. It's never been done. Yeah. So what we find, and when we look up in like our different SEOs, different databases, it's like people are like, what ILS is best for me? What ILS should I choose? And then and then we find, what internet listings should I choose? Is apartments.com better? Is Zillow.com better? And they're questions because, again, these are the most expensive line items. So they're owner operators. Like, why is my P&L show, $2,000 a month for something, and the ROI on that is insane.
It's also
horrific.
It's a unknown, really.
Correct. But what we tell folks is, and this, because this takes the collective, right? They say it takes a village to run. You can do millions and millions of dollars in systems, technology, or marketing, and all of this. It all comes down to the person at the property.
Sure.
So if all of that beautiful stuff, you can market millions. The second that a resident or prospect comes to the property, it is on that person to manage, and they have to run with it. If they mess up one time, all that investment is gone.
All the upstream top of funnel stuff is
all gone.
It's all
So all that centralization we did is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's amazing. God, I want beautiful systems. But it all comes down to, and I'll just use Karen. We love good Karen. Right? Karen at the office, right?
Kyle.
I know Kyle. That's right. I got to use Kyle. But it's like Kyle at the office just ruined it for me. And it's like, now you got to start over. So now you're in the hot seat with the owner. Yeah. But you didn't do anything wrong. Yeah. And so these are the types of things
it's the null outcome, right? Because the null outcome was what didn't happen, not what happened. And so no one walked in and got upset because there was nobody there to hear it. So the null outcome was actually very damaging because something didn't happen that you've spent a lot of money that you're trying to create to manufacture to happen, but you don't know that it didn't happen.
And what we tell people is like, great, advertise wherever you want to do. But you know what? We're agnostic. We don't make any kickback. We don't do any of that. We recommend what works best for you. I'm going to tell you, before you do any changes to any of your marketing, the first thing you should do, the best ROI, is a secret shop twice. same person.
Interesting.
And it's because no matter, and everyone has bad days. I have a lot of them.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's like, but so go check out, Kyle, do a secret shop on him, go do it again. You will then figure out where your money needs to go.
Yeah. One of the people that were talking in the panel yesterday was talking about how, this is an owner that would do secret shopping on the manager.
Yeah. Of
And,
course.
and like the management company would actually try and block him from doing that. Which sounds ridiculous.
That's a red flag for me. 100%. It sounds like my ex.
Yeah.
It sounds like a red flag. But it was just, this is the fun. You have to have fun with this stuff. But you got to also know this is.
You don't want me to show
there's
up
money. Yeah. This is a lot of money. We spend a lot of money on all that centralization, a lot of money on technology. And if it's not being used, we just blew it out the window.
All right. So then we're looking up. So I've considered in my buyer's journey, I need to lease apartments, which is like obviously how to put heads in beds. And that's obviously a bigger priority now than ever before because there's gaps, and that gaps are costing people money. I'm considered maybe an agency, but mostly I've considered hiring somebody, but hiring is a lot of work and there's nobody out there right now. And I got to solve a problem right now. Like I can't really just I can't solve this by the time I get somebody and ramp them up. That's like that's a
proactive versus reactive. Yeah.
So then I've typed into Google. I said, okay, internet list, tell me about internet listing services. I've looked at all the things. I kind of didn't get the answers I got, but I found you guys. And you're saying because they probably have at least 2 of the 3 big ones already.
Correct.
And you help them figure out that they can begin to kind of like portfolio approach the internet listings, the ILSs that they're using in an aggregated way that makes it really easy for them.
Correct.
Okay. And I think I said Trivago for ILS.
I know.
We
get everything. We're like, you're the middleman, you're the broker of service, you're like an insurance agent. I'm like, call me whatever you want. Let me just produce and make this work for you.
Yeah. And so what I'm hearing though is that you got the aggregation of ILSs. You're also creating an aggregation of the logins and applications, right? What was the third one again?
Brynsites. And then Brynsites is our unified platform with the BI.
Because you got Paul, you can ask everything that's going on.
Right. So our goal is to, again, solve the problem. And I know folks like from a sales perspective, they're like, you know what, find your niche and go with that niche.
Yeah.
Our niche is the user. Our niche is the operator. And our niche is like, we solve a problem that doesn't matter the size. We just need to know how you're currently set up. So we get a lot of folks now that are like, oh, I have everything known to man under AppFolio or Yardi or Entrata or RealPage. Well, respectfully, not every one of those offerings are best in class.
Yeah.
So you go with a provider that's like, oh, I have this one and I love him and I don't want to leave him, but he doesn't, and they don't integrate with it. Or I don't have a way to like read it all and now I've got to make reports. Yeah. That's why we solve that problem. So no matter your size, it's like that.
Yeah. No, we've I mean, my background is like 20 years in application delivery. And so really familiar with the kind of monolithic structures of these organizations. And they themselves are recognizing that their existing architecture, like they're kind of tethered to the ground by their existing architecture. And terrible. So, I mean, Yardi is an example, like they got 2/3 of the industry, as far as respect to units, but they're stuck because they're stuck in innovation. This is an innovator's dilemma. They can't innovate beyond their current revenue stream. And so what do? Right? They're very, I mean, and you're seeing it right now because RealPage, let's say AppFolio and Entrata and the other ones, they're really, really progressing in terms of like how they're moving on that market.
But be mindful that again, from a sales perspective, those top 6 want you to remain in their ecosystem.
Yeah.
So that's where we want to help revolutionize it. Like, I do not think that your chatbot is any good. I think this chatbot is good. Why can't I use that and use this? Yeah. Everyone wants your ecosystem. So that's where, when we said we found that problem where it was like, you're a REIT and you've got systems that your teams know and you love and you don't want to change. Why are you being forced to change?
It's interesting that like I had this conversation, I think the last couple of weeks ago. It was like they feel like they're taking a Microsoft Office approach to solving the problem,
God,
but really they aspire to have like an Apple App Store approach. But those are 2 different architectures
over here,
right? And so like the Microsoft Office ecosystem, even now, is an open ecosystem, and so the barrier to entry to work with those companies is going to affect their ability to innovate because they are not going to be able to innovate faster than the innovators in the world, right? It's just that's been sold, right? The Clayton Christensen and the Innovator's Dilemma and the Mini Mills, like they all ultimately push the floor up,
Mhm.
and moving the floor up changes the way the game is won and lost. And
We're here for
ultimately,
it. Like, I cannot wait. I want to support every new innovation, all these new startups, all these folks, because what they've done, and this is where I'll just kind of give a plug to all the startups and entrepreneurs out there, is, and to the property management companies, listen and look at these folks that are trying to get into your organization to do a demo. Take every demo that you can.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because just because Yardi and apartments.com and all these guys are big does not mean that they have perfect systems or products. They just have amazing marketing budgets and great salespeople. Take the demo to find the better solution that works.
Well,
for you.
and I would argue that
I look over here for you.
Yeah, I would argue
I'm talking to you.
Yeah,
It's like
that they're moving towards best in system of record.
Okay.
Right. Like I don't think we want to innovate on the new GL. I don't want to innovate on a new whatever, even a new maintenance order. Like I don't want to recreate that process. But how the maintenance order created, we want to innovate on that.
Yeah.
We want to be best in the world.
Don't reinvent the wheel.
No, but like that. But they are the wheel. And I think if I'm the leaders of those companies, or if I'm even a user of that software, I'm recognizing that like it's starting to get a little stale. And in this world, maybe they're not the only answer. So I don't know. It still needs to play itself out a little bit because they've taken their strategy. And I think that what's going to happen is the buyers are going to work around the strategy, and the innovators will work around the strategy. They already
and
are.
The mid-market's the one that, they're always.
That's what
they are geniuses.
Well, because they've got to do things with constraints. And
scrappy and savvy.
As we said earlier, the budget holder and the pain is in the same seat.
Correct.
And so when that happens, decisions happen and things change.
And don't forget, there's a lot of those budget holders or, the signatories. Everyone has, thinks like, oh, there's just a bunch of old guys. Not really.
No.
And they're very savvy and they're AI driven and they have low bandwidth. So they've thought, like you said, scrappy and savvy. They've done everything they can to ensure success. And by doing so, they want to move at a faster pace and fail quickly on something and try to find the next solution. So we're all about that. And like people, the questions we get from some folks that you think would be kind of a sleepy, organization. Oh no. He's like, here's what I did. I created my own workflow and chatbot, and I have my own, centralized system. So I don't put the data inside a ChatGPT. I mean, I was like thrown back the other day, actually, with someone based here in Arizona, and they had 6 properties, 6.
So when we talk to the hell yes side of things, so then your hell yes buyer is in that mid market, right?
Yeah, and
you're not going to say no to a 200,000 unit conversation,
right?
But ultimately, that's going to be longer and a bigger consumption of resources. So I'm not suggesting you putting in a box. This is about hell yes, right? And so I'm seeking hell yes, you're seeking hell yes, and so you've found that the mid-market buyer is more
hell yes,
hell yes. And so that's the nature of this conversation is around like we can spend our time trying to sell to everybody, but we're not going to find hell yes doing that. And so like the strategies that we take to find that hell yes is about saying no as much saying yes.
Right.
Because
there are companies that we will not work with. We do not want to work with them, and respectfully, we just say you're not a good fit for us.
Yeah.
And it's not that and when people are like, well, who is it that you don't want to work with? We want to work with good people. There are people in our industry that take some shortcuts that are somewhat questionable.
Sure.
And we do not align with that. So we've had several, I shouldn't say several, we've just had several conversations where it's like, we know what we're providing. We want to work with these people that are wanting to innovate, wanting to help, not the ones that come in and are like, you know what, I want your system and I want it for pennies on the dollar and I'm going to give you this. It's like, that's not for us. We value our time and our services.
I use a language of fair exchange of value, right? And as long as the pricing is fair and that for the value that's being delivered, then it's very, now we're just being petty about, things like that. And
I mean, we offer a 90-day guarantee. Like how much more can I give you? So this is where I think to say to hell yes, one of the other things that we've done is I encourage our team to be candid. And I say the more truthful and honest, but transparent, I always say honest, but candid about things, you are now trusted. And so if I can tell you like, we are at this price point because of X, Y, Z, here's where our comps are at, or here's where this is at. And you know what? You're going to struggle with us for onboarding because your system is a little bit antiquated. So instead of my 2-week time frame, it's actually going to be 3 to 4, but you guys have a dirty system. So we literally tell them like everything up front of like, we have a 2-week turnover. I'm sorry, but here's why it's this way, and here's the
Mhm.
reason. So that there's expectations are set.
So it's interesting. So we put a slide in our conversation, like we're trying to make sure that it's we can inspire speed and show them that there's no blockers, right?
Mhm.
And so we have a slide that says we can centralize your maintenance in one day, right?
Love
Well,
that.
yes, but does that sound
Do you have an asterisk next to that?
no? Well, that's the
Oh
thing, like how
man.
you describe it. And then we have a slide that can do it. This is how we do it, right? We
Yeah.
take your three
Okay.
people, we corral their calendars, we train
Mhm.
them, and now you're live,
Mm.
right? And then we kind of go
Okay.
through it like that. And
Love that.
it's a well, I mean, but it never ends up that way
Right.
because but
Right.
we can, the boundary of possibility is we can do this in one day.
Do you provide a service level agreement?
No, it's just included in onboarding.
Okay.
And so we do have we do have in our contract like a number of hours per month that are available and included.
Mhm.
And then if you go beyond that, there's a price to that. That's kind of what we do. And then
Okay.
we've never charged that in our
Right.
in our company's existence. Right.
Right.
But we just always put it out there. It's one of those things that we put it out there so that if we ever have to, we can activate it. But we've never done that before. It's like
No, and what we do for also is the expectations both ways. Like you said, that
Yeah.
mutual exchange of energy
Yeah.
and expectation. We tell the clients, here's what we do, but we can't do it without
Right.
XYZ.
Yeah.
So if we are delayed, consider this a delay.
Mhm.
And we make it very clear, like Google Docs, spreadsheets. We do everything we can so that
Yeah.
they do the least amount of work. But this, like with security data security and things, we just can't access everything, right?
Mhm.
So we need their help. And we always say, like, if we can get this within 48 hours, here's what the time turnaround will
Mhm.
be for us. Very candid, transparent or if we messed up,
Mhm.
we've messed up a million zillion times. And I will have to write those emails, and this, it's like,
Mhm.
it kills you, right?
Mhm.
You're like, damn, I thought we had this process in place.
Yeah.
And we write and say, we messed up. And here's the solution. Here's how I tell them, though, what we did to fix it so it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
Rep in a new system.
Do you find that when you're having these conversations like with respect to deployment and and for everyone's sake, this is all before this contract's been signed. Like we're articulating what it's like to be our customer. One thing I've actually said, we're redoing our website right now, is that I'd actually like to put in what's it like to be our customer.
Yeah,
on the website, so there's transparency with that
Some
conversation
testimonials
feels like.
and things like that. Yeah.
Well, just even like here's what it feels like. Here's the weekly cadence. Here's the monthly cadence. Here's the quarterly cadence.
So we call those SLAs.
Yeah.
That's what. Okay.
So that we know. So then that's transparent. And we're not just like we living by it, but we're actually telling the world about it. And so then people are looking to kind of like de-risk the conversation of maybe choosing Iris. They can go out there and see, like, this is what they actually say. This is like part of the brand.
And then, but also, I think holding yourself accountable to that will make you a very successful organization.
Right.
If it's publicly facing that you've given these service level agreements or like, what it's like to be here, you have to stick to it. 100%. And your team has to be into it. They have to be dedicated. And you know what? If you don't meet it, then there's a person it's the only two issues with organizations, people or process.
Yeah.
And so it's like that.
You're in Atomic Habits. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love, but it's 100% all the way down as far granular as you want to get, people or process. And if you don't have those two, then there's a problem. You got to fix it. I'm glad you just called me out on that, because I was like, for a second, I've been thinking about it for so long, I forgot who I read it from. I was like,
what's the system? Your falls, the weakness of your system.
Yeah, it's you don't fail to. Oh man, now you got me. We'll get it.
Fact check it.
Yeah, you only fail to your greatest system. You can only fail to greatest.
The weakest part of your system.
Something like that.
We nailed it.
Yeah, we're so good. We're so sorry. I forgot his name.
I think I don't know. So let's
keep reading, kids.
It's like GPT it.
Yeah.
So when we take a look at kind of closing this out, as we kind of wind things down, what are some of your strategies that you use to make sure that you're getting better at getting to hell yes?
I think for us, and I know for us, is the way that we are getting to hell yes faster is we are getting those silent deal killers answered sooner.
I like it.
And we're also the most transparent organization, because I tell people, have we been doing this forever? No. Are we going to be here for a while? Absolutely. But here is where we're at. When everyone says, do you have all of these things? It's like, do you have all of those things? No, we're all human. We put our pants on the same way. We're working to achieve greatness. And here's where we might be lacking in some regard, but here's the roadmap where we're getting there.
Right.
Or here's the things we excel at. And when people hear you speak to them as another human, taking that sales chatter
Mhm,
out.
mhm.
They're like, hey, you know, Bob, this is the way we've done it. I know it seems a little tough. Our comps are doing it this way. Your PMS is doing it that way. But you know what? I'm here to help you. Give them insight that they didn't ask for.
For sure.
And so people are like, what do you recommend? I'm like, look, we don't recommend anything, but I'll give you insight onto other providers. People want free information.
And when you
They
go out
love
there
it.
and you tell them about your other providers, they are sometimes shocked,
Yeah.
right?
I love all the other, like, you have to say there's enough business to go around.
Yeah.
Anyone that thinks you're going to get 100%
again,
of the deal,
I think it's
nuts.
actually, if you think that you can win the whole market, you're misled. You're going to spend a lot of money.
You're going to be very tired.
Yeah.
You know,
but you should win the part of the market that you want to win.
Correct.
This whole hell yes thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is figuring out who needs my solution, the way it's configured, or our solution, the way it's configured, the way we service it the most.
Correct.
Right. And then what does that person look like? Like I loved our conversation earlier about mid-market, because that really is the people are more inclined to innovate.
Yeah.
They are, maybe this way, like they are more accustomed to the risk profile of innovation than a big institutional organization. Like they're more, I use this expression all the time, so apologize. They're more tuned to steering than just horsepower. Where like if you're managing 1 million units, it's like all horsepower and steering is not supposed to happen. Whereas if you're a smaller organization, you may not have the horsepower. Mid-market, you may not have the horsepower, but you're very nimble with how you operate, and that's how you're winning.
And what we go into in that regard is how we answer these questions. And I said this at our panel yesterday, and it's 3 questions that any signatory, as being the owner operator side, any signatory always asks for any new endpoint solution or provider. Do you make me money, save me money, or cost me money?
Right.
If you can answer me those 3 questions, I personally was always, as my mentor always said, you want someone that does all 3.
Sure.
And he's like, even though people say costing money is negative, it's if you cost me money from a negative perspective, but I value you and I respect you and I'm going to pay you for your services.
Yeah.
So that's the company that that you want.
I'm curious why you don't have risk in that conversation.
It's money. It's not everything is money.
Yeah. Well,
and I respect that. You know, like this is as you know, we are a service-based business, but when it comes to a vendor's perspective, we are selling to it's B2B, right?
Oh, yeah.
So this is about dollars and cents and efficiencies, and money. Time is money, so that's where the money comes in as well.
And I think that the reality is you're not going to get to where you got to get to unless it's a money conversation.
The guy signing the check wants to know, did you put heads in beds? I don't care what systems these, because he's not using them.
Right.
He wants to know, are you making me money, costing money, or saving money?
Got it.
And that's why we answer those questions immediately and how we do it.
I love it. For those looking to find hell yes, any one piece of advice to give them?
Don't go at a conversation looking for a sale. Provide value in your conversation. Even if you have zero expectation to get a sale, that person will sense it from their gut, and then they will trust you and you'll get the deal.
I love it.
90% of the time. I can't say every time, but
no, I love it. No, it's the selling never helps, and helping often sells. Right.
And that's why if you don't expect it and you're just a good person giving, people always seek advice. And if you can give them an honest, presentation and demo of like why you're great, and here's what else you can do with it, use case. That'll
work for it. Excellent. Who should we talk to next?
That's a great question. Another service offering? Another vendor, provider?
I've had good conversations with operators.
Oh man, there are so many out there. I think so many great operators. I would say, it might be interesting to take a perspective of how to get to hell yes from like a leasing standpoint.
That'd be outstanding.
I would say there's a couple of large property management companies and some smaller ones that have really focused on training their teams. Where I'll just say this, I'll put a little plug. They have no idea probably even who I am anymore because it's been so long. But my very first job in leasing, without going through the family side, was Flournoy Properties. They were based in Texas and Oklahoma.
All right.
They're the ones that, and I know they're still in business, so they were the best.
Go at it.
I owe them so much of my leasing career because they actually dedicated their time to training. We did like a 4-week training process where I went to another city. I had classroom style, legitimate training. And to this day,
Xerox style.
I have awards for being the top seller of leasing in Texas, like all of that because of them.
Oh, outstanding.
And you don't even know who I am anymore, probably, but it's been many, many moons, but I have to thank them. Always do a shout out to Flournoy Properties. So.
We'll track them down. No, I love that kind of commitment to, it's very infrequent that you find that kind of commitment to training people.
And don't forget, COVID, we were just application takers.
100%.
We were not salespeople.
Yeah.
And so we have to retrain how to be a salesperson now.
Yeah.
Because the market is so saturated. So.
Well, and there's an entire career arc that only knows how to take orders. Right. So we're kind of stuck.
That generation, you guys, I'm wishing you all the best. I'm wishing you all the best because it's I'm not that generation.
Yeah. How can we get a hold of you?
Sure. So you can find us on our website. It's just brynson.com, BRYNSON.com, or Anthony@brynson.com is my email.
Outstanding. LinkedIn probably too.
Yep. It's linkedin.com/, right? And then Anthony Paganucci.
Yeah.
I forgot how if there's like 2 // but
You
just
didn't think
Anthony.
about calling Paul Paolo?
No,
You had that kind of
the
authority.
good Italian. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. But yeah, I'm the only Paganucci out there. It's Anthony Paganucci.
Outstanding. And then if you're listening, you can follow this on podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Follow us there. There's usually a blog post that kind of goes around this as well. We'll push that out on LinkedIn. Thank you very much for listening. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah,
This is so much fun.
I appreciate it.
And I look forward to following more. And this will probably come out somewhere, I don't know, before the holidays. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Already there.
Yeah.
Take care.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.